Hey guys, so today I am here to review Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There by Lewis Carroll. This story takes place, it's not really stated anywhere in the story, but I do believe either a couple of days after the end of Alice's adventures in Wonderland, or maybe a couple of months after. The story is starting with Alice playing in her playroom in the house with Dinah, her cat, and the kittens. And in a way, she's reprimanding one of the kittens for misbehaving about something. And she then goes to show them their fur in the looking glass, and she realizes that the picture in the looking glass is different from the room that Alice is actually standing in. And she decides to investigate. So she climbs the mantle and goes through the looking glass. Actually, it's more like she falls through the looking glass, and she ends up back in Wonderland. Here she ends up meeting some new people, and not really old people, because of the fact that it's pretty much a whole new slew of characters in this story. And does Alice end up back in the real world, or is she stuck in the looking glass forever? Anyway, this story was quite interesting because as I was reading it, I wasn't enjoying it as much as after I finished it. And I started looking back on the characters that I had read and some of the writing, and I just had the fondest memories from it. And I think it's because I was introduced to a lot of the characters that I'm familiar with, such as the White Knight, the Walrus and the Carpenter, and most importantly, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. You cannot forget about those two. I was really intrigued by how this story was laid out. There was a lot of poetry and rhyming and lyrics that I found really interesting, and those are one of the things that really draws my attention from the story with Lewis Carroll. These amazing rhymes that he comes up with, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you're going to understand these rhymes because they make sense. Whereas a lot of the other ones that maybe you have to study in school, you kind of have to focus on very carefully, and some of the times when your teacher is explaining it, you're kind of like, I do not see that at all. Where are you coming from? What planet are you from? Because that is not here in this poem at all. Whereas reading the story, you can actually see it come out of it. I remember in grade 9 having to study and dissect and memorize some of Jabberwocky, and after that point in time I just had a little bit of a hate for the poem Jabberwocky. Seeing this story unfold was quite interesting because I don't think I'm as familiar with this version as I am with the version of Alice in Wonderland. If you guys have watched a lot of films, you're going to notice that Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland, it does include a lot of the characters from both books, but it's put in the same story of just the first story. So reading this, I was very intrigued to find out some of the differences that I might not have been as familiar with, and I was pleasantly surprised. Overall, I really enjoyed this, and I feel like it's one that not a lot of people know about or pick up, and I do recommend picking it up, especially if you're in the mood for some complete nonsense. Anyway, that is my review. If you guys want to talk about this more, then feel free to do so in the comments down below. I love talking to you, and I will see you in my next video. Go and pick up a random book and read. Bye, guys.